All right, just real quick, wanted to show you how I bring in YNAB data into a spreadsheet. And this is what I do every month personally. I just like having all the data into a spreadsheet, and then I create all sorts of custom ratios and track things exactly the way I want to. You don't have to do this personally, but to me, it's just really fun to have everything in a spreadsheet. All right, so once you have all of your YNAB data there, all your transactions are there, everything's done for the month. What you do is you click on your budget, this little arrow in the top left, and then say export budget, and go ahead and press export. It's going to bring in a zip file. Go ahead and open that zip file. And so within every zip file that they send you, it's going to have two files, a register file and a budget file, and they're CSV files. And I always ignore the register. You feel free to use it if you'd like, but I just use the budget file. I use Excel, and I just will open it in Excel. Go ahead and if you don't have Excel, there's another way of getting this data up and running. If you go into drive.google.com and then you click on this top left arrow or button that says new, and then go ahead and click on Google Sheets. And so Google Sheets is a free spreadsheet tool that anyone can use. And if you go to File, Import, Upload, then you select a file from your device, select the budget file, CSV file that was just downloaded, say open. Then it's okay, this default replace spreadsheet, and then import data. And so here it is. So you can work with this, or you can work with the Excel spreadsheet. Either way is fine. So what I normally do is I delete these first column B and column C. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And so I just have category, budgeted, activity, and available. Budgeted is how much you put in during that month from the money that you received into each individual budget or envelope. Activity is how much you spent out of that envelope or budget. And then available is whether there's any money left in each budget at the end of the month. And so you have the different months. And so first thing we want to do is create a financial statement or income statement. So go ahead and say new sheet. So you do this in Excel, or you can do this in Google Sheets. So I'm going to call this financial statements. And we're going to just focus on, you can do a balance sheet, which is kind of all of your assets and liabilities and net worth, but we're just going to focus on creating an income statement. And I'm going to make this column A a little bit wider because it's going to hold our categories, our budget categories. And then in column B1, I'm going to start with the months. So let's assume that the first month you're using and tracking is December 2021. And then the next month would be January 2022. Then the next month would be February 2022. And anytime you're in a spreadsheet and you start a sequence, particularly a time sequence or a numbering sequence, go ahead and just highlight that sequence. In this case, we're highlighting B1 to D1. So you can highlight through dragging the middle of the cell over to the cell you want to highlight. Or if you start a cell, let's say B1, and you hold down the shift key and you just keep holding down the shift key and then you hit the right arrow, then it'll select all of the cells as you move forward or up or down or left or right. And once the sequence is highlighted, then you hover over the blue box, it becomes black crosshairs, and then you can just drag. And so you drag, and the timeline is created. This always just starts with the A through Z columns. And so if you want to create more columns, you just click the letter on the column, so it highlights the whole column. Then you right mouse click and you say insert one column to the right. And if you want to select, insert more than one column, you highlight more than one column. So if you hold down Shift and then click, column R, then it'll select from column R to column AA, and then you just right mouse click, and then it can say insert, 10 columns to the right. And you can just keep doing that and creating a much bigger spreadsheet. And so, so we have our timeline, we have the title income statements. I like to create a really pretty income statement with lots of categories and have things be, indented and very clear. But for this example, we're just gonna do the bare bones way of doing it. So if you go to your YNAB data and you just select all the categories for 1 month. So January has all of these categories, and then it goes into February. And I don't include the credit card categories because a credit card is made up of all the other categories, so it's double counting. So if you select all the categories, everything except the credit cards, then you have the names that are all relevant for your income statement. So I'm just going to copy those and paste. So now we have all the categories, and I'm going to call this tab FS, and I'm going to create a new tab, and I'm going to call this YNAB data. And it's important we create now a database of YNAB data. And so I'm going to copy these categories from A1 to E1 and say copy. And I'm going to put that in this new tab, YNAB data tab. I'm going to paste it here. I like to make it bold. And so every time you export, it's going to have lots of months of data, most likely. And all you really care about is the latest month, because you will have done this for the previous month. And so the latest month is December. And so what I'm going to do is select all of the December data. So it has January here, but January is not finished yet. I'm recording this in January, and so January is not done. And so I'm just using December. So I select that data, I copy it, and then I paste it. So now here it is. And so here, and when January is finished, then I would just, export it out of YNAB, and then I would only select January data, copy that, and then paste it right here, right below. And so the database just keeps getting bigger and longer as you add data each month. So this data, I want to have this data go into our timeline, into our income statement. And so I'm going to use a VLOOKUP, but this database here is not the best way to reference. You can't really use a VLOOKUP. And so I'm going to create what's called a pivot table. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the data, and then I'm going to over select. So I'm going to just go ahead and select from, if you look here, A1 to E1000. And then I'm going to say insert pivot table. So once you've selected A1 to E1000, I'm going to select pivot table. And if you missed that reference, you could do the reference here in this data range. So A1 to E1000, I'm going to put it in a new sheet and say create. So pivot tables are really powerful ways of summarizing data, a database. So we've created a little database with the YNAB data, and now we're going to summarize it so that the VLOOKUP can grab the data really easily. So the rows, we want to have the months as a row. And the columns, we want to have the category as the columns. And oh, sorry, I mixed that up. Okay, so the rows, we want to have the category. Then the columns, we want to have the month. And then the value, we want to have it grab. You can have it grab the budgeted amount. You can have it grab the activity. You can have it grab everything. So you can do budgeted, activity, available. Let's just focus on activity, which is how much you actually spent that month. And then that's it for the pivot table. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And now, so we have this pivot table. I'm just going to call it PV. Not PV. How about PT, pivot table? And so then let's go ahead and go to our table. So now we want to use a VLOOKUP. You only have to do this formula one time, and then you just copy and paste for each month. That's really slick, really quick. So we're going to say equals V, then lookup, open parentheses. Our search key, go ahead and select A2 to the left, and that's what it's going to search for in the pivot table. And then you say comma, we want to search for in the pivot table. So we select the pivot table. We start with the beginning of the pivot table, which I'm going to start here at A3 and then grab down. I'm going to make it bigger than the pivot table. I'm going to have it go over all the way to the end. And once your pivot table grows past column Z, then you're going to have to update this cell reference. But right now, you just always select a reference bigger than the table is so that it can adapt as the table gets bigger. And then I'm going to do comma. Now this index value is asking, once it finds what it's looking for, in this case, it's looking for 401k. So it's going to find it right here. What do you want to retrieve? And so it's a vertical lookup. So it's going to look up things vertically. So if you say, let's say you say 3, then 1 is column A, would retrieve the name. 2 is column B, it's blank. 3 is column is this December, which is what you want. So 3 will retrieve the correct amount. And then if you say false, then let's see what happens. So after the index value, false is usually, it's either true or false, and it's best for a VLOOKUP to say false. So it retrieved $500, and let's make sure that that's correct. And that is, so 401k in December is $500. Now, something I like to do is this index value, I want it to be dynamic. I want it to be clear kind of what it's retrieving. And so I like to insert a row above, and I'll call it index. And then I put 3 here. And then I do, for the next month, I do equals 3 plus 1. And it's formatting it funny. So you can just go into this 1, 2, 3 and say number. And I'm going to decrease the decimals. Okay. So, and then you can just drag this. And so what that's going to do is the next month, when you just copy and paste it, it's going to update the index value to go to the next, it's going to go to the next column, then the next column. And so in this formula, instead of hard coding 3, I'm going to actually reference the cell that we just did, which is being hidden right now. But it's so it is this one here. So B1. And all right, so this formula is done, except we need to add some $ so that it can be dragged and copied all over from every month, all the way down to every category. So I'm going to put a $. If you put a $sign in front of something, then it'll fix it, fix the reference there. So I want to fix it, this lookup, this category lookup. I want to fix it at column A, but I want it to be able to go down to different categories. So I'm not going to put it in front of 3. I want the pivot table reference to stay fixed on the column and the row. So I'm going to put it before A, before 3, before Z, before 33. I want this B1 to be fixed on row 1, but I want it to be able to move by column. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, it's okay. Just kind of copy these steps. So now the formula is done. What's really cool is once the formula is done and you have the $signs, then you can just hover over that blue box, becomes black crosshairs, and then you just drag. And all of the data is, you're good to go. So it's brought in everything. And what's really cool is once you, so in the next month, you'll go to YNAB It'll be January. You'll export the budgets. You'll bring it in. It'll look like this. And then you'll just go and down and you'll grab January's data. So you'll grab January right here. And then you'll copy it. You'll go in here to the data. You'll find the bottom of it, and then you'll just paste it here. And then once you paste it here, the pivot table automatically adjusts. So now you can see there's a January month. And so then when you go here, you're going to want it to go 4 columns over. So when you drag this, so if you highlight all of these cells and you just drag it, then it's updated. And so it's referencing this, it's going, the index value is now 4 instead of 3. So every month, all you have to do is simply bring in the data into the database, the YNAB data tab, and then the pivot table updates, and then you just drag the formula over each month. And so this is the totals column. This is the January column, which doesn't have any transactions, and so that's why you're getting that. But anyway, so that's how to do it. So please just once you do this, take a screenshot, and hopefully everything goes well. You definitely want to format this for your own personal use. You know, like if it's a timeline, you want to put in a nice border so that it's clear. And then it's nice to organize this by category and do all the fancy stuff. And then you can create ratios and track stock prices and do all sorts of fun stuff. All right, hope that helps. I'll see you. Bye.